Many years ago, I was listening to a radio show. The topic was ESP, or extrasensory perception. ESP was the buzzword at the time for experiences that appeared real and personal to people but could not be backed by conventional science. Many of the incidents reported were similar, such as near-death experiences, astral projection, picking up messages of danger to self or loved ones before they happened. Astral projection is the assumption that there are levels of different consciousnesses within our physical body. One of them is called the astral body. When the astral body seems to detach from the physical one, it provides the person with different experiences that seem to have similar consistency with other astral projectors. A scientist expressed her opinion on behalf of the scientific community. This lady scientist was adamant that no experiences could exist outside of the brain. Therefore, all the reports were due to some brain activity similar to psychosis. Her position shut down the people who described their personal and real experiences. This scientist did not do due diligence to even look at works by highly respected researchers such as Robert Jahn and Brenda Dunn. They were reporting rigorous scientific findings on remote viewing at that time. One could interpret this lady scientist as saying that all the TV show's activities existed only on the TV and could not come from any other source, such as radio waves. Many common behaviors could be considered universal among human beings. We all have basic needs like food, water, and shelter, the love of family and connecting to a community. But there is also the need for meaning and purpose in our lives. But for many, the feelings that there are higher forces at play, gods, spirits, and energies, seem to undeniably point to the fact that the material world is not all that there is for them. So is the spiritual world another reality that we can explore and study? Or is it just a misunderstood part of our brain functioning? This video will explore from where that feeling that there is something else out there comes from. The critical question is it just in our heads, or is it controlled by other things that we cannot see in our world? There are many reasons to explore this question. Like psychologists and psychiatrists, scientists may be driven by curiosity at curious states and changes in the mind that occur to people who have reported having spiritual experiences. Some convert to religion after such an experience, and others have found it easier to give up addictions. Religious expression has also been linked with motivations to defend and attack people, resulting in wars. It is difficult to isolate oneself from the effects of culture and how it influences others' spiritual experiences, even if one has not experienced it. Before delving into where spiritual experiences come from, defining what we are looking for is essential. Perhaps the origin of the idea of a spirit world in formal scientific studies comes from early physicians' work. Upon dissection of those who had passed, ancient doctors may have noted that human organs did not appear to contain obvious mechanisms for displaying the variety of phenomena that the brain was capable of in life. The impacts that injuries to the head in work and war may have suggested to writers that an organ, the brain, was responsible for behavior and cognition. Chinese and Greek scholars like Galen had noticed this, but subsequent dissections of the brain only yielded opaque tissue. For example, thinking of your favorite sports car did not necessarily mean anything about a sports car was in the brain, like the lady scientist from the radio show was suggesting. This separation of structure and function have led to the evolving idea that mind is separate from body. Therefore, the mind uses the brain only as an interface with the physical world. The self's duality that a person is a mind in a body found a significant supporter in the French philosopher Descartes, who wrote about the self as a spirit in a shell of flesh. This dualism became a primary school of thought in Western philosophies. Explain and accept that some people could have out-of-body experiences or visits from beings who later vanished without a trace were not insane. That duality between the world of the material and the spiritual world became a widespread belief even until today. However, the spirit world expresses itself in so many different ways. Those who grew up in Christian Europe and the Americas report visions of the Virgin Mary and Jesus Christ, whereas those from India would report seeing Krishna. Spiritual experiences also appear to be time-dependent, like those who are having near-death experiences report seeing divine beings. On the other hand, there are accounts of people like the philosopher Simone Weil who had religious experiences at any unpredictable time in their day-to-day activities. More bizarrely, it appears that there are also ways to induce a spiritual experience on demand. The effects of psychedelic drugs like LSD, as explored in our other videos, have often caused spiritual experiences, visions of beings and objects which are not in the material world, and seeing the universe from a removed point of view as God may see it. This separateness is one reason why psychedelics are often called entheogens. En for internal, theo referring to the divine, and gen for Genesis. All these characteristics of spiritual experiences lead us to three observations. Firstly, the experiences are culture dependent. If they were not, then Christians would see Krishna and Hindus would see the Virgin Mary. But by and large, people interpret spiritual experiences according to their cultural background. Secondly, it is not religion dependent. The reports from atheists and those who see spiritual beings after taking psychedelics indicate that what one believes about God or God's existence is not necessarily to elicit a spiritual experience. Thirdly, the brain mediates spiritual experiences. If it did not, then physical substances like psychedelics would not produce spiritual experiences. Injuries and psychoses of the brain would not make the spiritual experiences different for those individuals. For now, although the connection between mind and body remains as opaque as the tissue in the brain, we cannot ignore the evidence that some mediation in one's experience of spirituality occurs in the brain. It is for these reasons that religious anthropologist W.J. Wildman has not preferred the term spiritual experiences over religious experiences or vice versa, but instead has grouped them into a combined religious and spiritual experiences term called RSEs. Using the name RSE for all of the types of phenomena we have discussed allows us to remain open to investigating material and religious origins of what people experience, how religious and spiritual experiences change the brain, and vice versa. In our next video, we will explore how systems in the brain and one's spirituality experience are connected.